And it's a great way to, because look, I mean, at the end of the day, any job that you do at a higher level, every job is sales.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Desi Expats. Today we're talking about strategies or just things generally that have helped us do a better job at our jobs. And what we've realized over the years, ever since we started to now when we've become slightly senior in our careers. So why don't we start with Ali and tell us your top 2 tips that you think have helped you further your career.
Yeah. So just for context, just so everyone who's watching the video knows, I work in investment banking. Been doing it for 4 years now. Um, 2 things that have really helped me. The first thing, and this is something I read in a Jordan Peterson book.
Okay.
It's called 12 More Rules for Life. It's his, I think, third book.
Okay.
And he says, opportunity lies where responsibility has been abdicated. Now, what he means there is there's going to be certain domains in your workplace or sort of work streams that no one has taken responsibility for because either it's too painful to do or it's too annoying. वो होते हैं ना ये database update कर दो, team uses it quite often, and no one really wants to deal with it because it's not the glamorous work. Those are the type of opportunities you want to look for where no one is playing a role.
Right.
Go in there and try and fix it. It'll really help you convey to senior management and, your manager, people, the higher ups who are really invested in the well-functioning of the team and the business. You are a team player and that you are adding value.
So you take
in
up
particular
things
role.
that no one else is taking, and they will like reap benefits in the long run.
Because look, it's a competitive world. तुम अपने office में compete कर रहे हो अपने colleagues के साथ. You're collaborating, but you're also competing, right? There's a limited pool of money to go around, and the person who adds the most value makes the most amount of money, typically. Why not just go to a field where there's no competition, right? Go somewhere. Go somewhere where no one is playing, so you can be number one all the time. To find those opportunities.
I remember reading somewhere where it said, like, when you start in a job and you want to impress your new team manager, whatever, pick the thing that your manager hates doing the most. Find out a better way of doing it, and then you have his or her trust.
That sort of brings me to the second tip I have. Understand the problems of the person above you in sort of position. Right? अपने immediate manager, उसका manager, उनकी problems को समझो, and not only the problems that are very visible, but also some of the ones that are a bit invisible. Let's say I'm working and I've got a VP and a director, और उसको अच्छा दिखना है अपने boss के सामने, informed दिखना है about whatever work piece is going on. Let's say there's a company we're discussing with an MD, which is a super, super higher boss, or you and your director are going into that meeting. What can you do to make your director look better in front of the MD? Do a bit of research. Ek email banao, 7-8 bullet points about what the key issues are, what the company is, and what he can go in and say to that MD. तुमने उस बंदे का 1-1.5 घंटा बचा लिया because he or she would have to do that research, him or herself. You're making sure he looks good. You're adding value to his life. Next time there's a round table discussion, how are all the associates doing? And it comes up, yaar, really kya kar raha hai aajkal? This VP is going to say, you know what? That guy really helped me and he made me look good in front of the MD. I'm going to put my hand up and say, you know what? Ali's really proactive. And he really cares about the work streams going on. So make sure you know what problems your managers are facing and try to solve them. That's how you add value.
Both the ones that are verbalized and the ones that are
not verbalized. Exactly.
The implied ones.
How about you, Sajan?
Yes.
So I think.
Wait, first, please tell our viewers what you do if they haven't heard us before.
So I'm a product manager at Amazon for fashion business. And as a product manager, my job revolves a lot around stakeholder management, problem solving, and ensuring the products that help business grow are in place. So, in my kind of job, it requires a lot of problem solving and collaborating with very diverse set of stakeholders. You're talking to business teams, you're talking to, supply chain leadership, and people who are from marketing background.
Yeah.
So it's a very diverse range of set. So my first tip is around stakeholder management. That you should really be able to forge great relations with the people you work, because as you grow up in your career, it becomes more people centric. And one of the things that I really like to do is celebrate people. So a lot of times
Give them credit for what
give
they're
them
doing.
credit for what people do, because when we start our career, it's a lot about it should be out in the open that what I am doing, and that's how my perception grows in the team. That's how leadership perceives me. But as you grow, it becomes more about celebrating people, giving credit to people, than just thumping your own chest. So this has helped me forge great relations with my stakeholders. So whenever there's something good happening, or even if there's a blocker, I usually ensure that my stakeholders management is aware of what good things my stakeholders are doing, and giving those little shout outs.
It's very common in tech companies. We love doing shout outs.
It's not
goes a
common in
long
banking
way.
at all.
At
right?
all.
It goes a long way. Of course, the kind of work I do has a lot of dependencies, and I think most of the jobs have that. But if you are able to forge great relations, then you are able to somehow, overcome those dependencies.
I have a question on that. I mean, I think when all of us were younger and like entry level folks, it was just us. It was our job. That was the end all and be all of what we had to do. As in when you grow into a role where you might have to start managing some folks, direct reports or otherwise, like interns, analysts maybe, and then you're also in charge for like training some folks, and that becomes a KPI for you. Like I always struggle with how to maintain that carrot and stick approach. Like what's that ideal balance so that like you can train them to the best of their ability so that they become a good resource, versus also like be a friend to them, be a mentor to them. Like I've always struggled
it's a
with
very tricky balance. I've been sort of the manager for our intern class 2 years in a row now, right? And I've sort of struggled with it as well. You do need both. You need the carrot and the stick. It is hard to be, and I think it is actually a challenge if you're friends with someone who is junior to you. It is a challenge, because then it gets increasingly harder to use the stick, and you don't really want to either. It takes a lot of energy out of you. So try as much. It's very hard to do, right? You like sometimes you just gel with someone at work, so it's hard. But try as much as possible that when you do have to use the carrot is the easy part.
I think
the carrot comes easier. We're all sort of decent people. We want to say good stuff, but the carrot isn't as important as the stick. I think. And when you do have to use the stick, make sure you take the friendship hat off. You do have to be stern with people sometimes. So.
And on the flip side, I want to say, like when I was younger, initially I would take offense at someone giving me constructive criticism or like teaching me stuff. And now as I've gotten older, I am thankful. I'm thankful for someone who gives me constructive criticism, because I'm like, this person took time out of his or her very busy life, thought about what I do great, what I don't do great, and gave me feedback on that. Like, come on, this person had no business doing it. Like, and they did it because they want me to grow. So now I appreciate that, and I think that's a journey you go through with yourself, which is like disassociating your friendship with your colleague with what he or she is trying to teach you as a senior.
And in the end, you are doing it for their benefit.
Exactly.
Right? If you're criticizing them or using the stick, it's because it's good for them in the long run. Right? And if they don't take that piece of information as a chance for them to improve, then it's only their loss.
Exactly. So on this note, things that work very well for me are, for example, firstly, having clarity. what you're expected to do and why you're expected to do so. In fact, when I was intern, I got so lost that I did not have the clarity of what task I had to do.
Yeah.
But now when I work with people, I ensure that they are absolutely clear on what is the task at hand and how they're supposed to navigate it. Secondly, when you're assigning tasks, it also flows the other way around.
Yeah.
You also say that, hey, I'll be taking care of these blockers. I'll help you I'll support you with these blockers. In the meantime, you carry these responsibilities. Another area that works very well is, this has to do with micromanagement. A lot of people, tend to micromanage the task because they don't trust the folks who are doing it. It's a trust deficit. Like, that's where micromanagement comes in. So on that note, what works, in my opinion, is trust and test.
Okay.
So you trust. So for example, if I'm working with you for the first time, I would ensure you are clear on the task. I would assign you the task and will allow you to, do it as per your wits. But at the same time, there are certain areas I would just, maybe as a manager, just go and test out. So that would just help me understand, are you even thinking in the right direction?
Yeah, and are you capable of doing it right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Now, the second thing was around communication for me. The second point was on communication, where ensuring that everybody's on the same plate. Communication is a lot about listening, and I think that's where many managers fail, and even with this work from home, it has gotten all the more tough for them to concentrate and listen to the other person. And communication is not just about, having those one-on-one verbal communications, but also about ensuring that you are on the same page as your leadership. So, I mean, what works for me is sending those what's on my mind mailers on Monday morning, where I have all my weekly priorities set in. What are the key blockers? What are the priorities? And where do I need support, key meetings, etc. There's just like bullet points. It takes hardly 20 minutes to really draft it and send it out. So in my mind, these are the two areas, people and communication, that really helps you grow in the long run. But what are the two strategies that work for you, Sameeksha?
I think the first one, so for context, I've worked in two very different industries. I used to work in private equity investing before, and now I work at Snapchat doing strategy. So very distinct industries, but I think there's some commonalities that I think can like help you succeed in probably
I'm
any
very
workplace.
interested in the commonality, because I had certain things to say and Sajan did as well.
Yeah.
And I, like, when he was talking about, जब तू बोल रहा था ना ये सारा, तो like मैं सोच रहा था यार इसमें से आधी चीजें मेरी इंडस्ट्री में नहीं चल सकती, right? And I'm sure it's vice versa, it's the same. But like you have seen both,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, continue. But I'm very interested in like
I think
the overlap.
That's interesting, and like you said, it's 100% true. It's not a perfect like mix. ऐसा नहीं कि जो finance में चलेगा वो tech में चलेगा, and it's about getting the pulse for that industry, right? Like that's how you do well in any new industry. But bottom line, and I will scream this out, I'll make a t-shirt for it, and I will say it all comes down to perception management with the people that you work with.
Yeah.
That is paramount. That can make or break your career. That can do everything and anything that you want. And I think coming from a very South Asian upbringing for all three of us, where we've been told, don't toot your own horn, don't say more than you're asked. मतलब काम करो, ये ज़्यादा marketing करना अपना ये अच्छा नहीं है. Everything is linear.
Meritocratic.
Everything is meritocratic. The volume of output is directly correlated to the volume of inputs you put in. Like we come from that background, and suddenly we're in this world where it's not that. People who don't put in as much effort can do much better just because they were better at marketing what they were doing. And that's, I don't mean it in a very unscrupulous, like shrewd manner. I mean it's not enough to do good work. It's also important to show people that you've done good work. And something very interesting that was true for both finance and tech for me is identifying the most or highest impact stakeholders and trying to make a point that you solve their issues, which is usually the big picture issues, right? It's
100%.
like पूरे business को कैसे better कर सकते हैं, and that has nothing to do with your day-to-day tasks
100%.
or your immediate manager. So I think that like managing perception both with immediate seniors but also with senior leadership who you know have that power to sort of uplift you or take you with them when they grow. So I think that's paramount, and don't think of it as like blowing your own trumpet. You just have to do it and do it in a way that feels organic and authentic to you. And the second thing for me has been like, don't think your ideas are stupid and dumb. Maybe शुरू में तो मुझे बहुत ही लगता था, मतलब let's not even start. I would
all have been there.
Yeah, and low confidence when you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing.
Which is a good thing. Look, you don't want to be too high confident when you're starting out.
I
Because
agree.
you're going to bullshit, right? Basically, you don't know how it works.
Because you're learning the ropes then, and it makes sense. But once you've had a few reps in,
Exactly.
if it's something, especially if it's an idea backed by something, let's say data, like hard data, कि तुम्हें दिख रहा है, you should try and voice it because you just know more about that topic by virtue of spending more time in it. It doesn't mean that the other person is dumb. It just means you've spent more time in it. And by virtue of that, you've come up with something that escaped another person's eye because they weren't in the weeds of things.
You got too much on their plate maybe, right? So,
and they have other priorities.
100%,
This was your priority, topic A, and you went too deep in it and you understood that this is how we can do it better. But the next step is what we talk about usually, which is like, how do you present an idea to someone and get them on board without making them feel dumb about it?
This has to do with general communication.
Yeah.
It's communication is the paramount of our job.
Yeah.
Agnostic of the sectors we work in.
Because you need those senior folks to come on board. You can't like effect change by yourself in like large organizations, right?
And it's a great way to, because look, I mean, at the end of the day, any job that you do at a higher level, every job is sales.
You are selling yourself.
You are selling yourself, you are selling your ideas, whether it's internal to an organization or externally to clients everywhere. And as a junior, if you can start getting those reps in, when you're convincing someone of your idea, you're selling, right? That's what 100%. You're doing. Communication is just sales.
Agreed.
So it's good to get those reps in. What's really good for me when it comes to selling the idea is package it in a way so that the senior person feels like it's his or her idea.
You need to be in their shoes.
No. Get them invested. Like make them
Ask
look
for
better.
their advice.
When you think or even communicate, it's important to understand whom are you talking to, be in their shoes, and where are they coming from.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
But like another point about South Asian upbringing, like I don't see a lot of South Asians in like core sales roles.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
Yeah, and I've talked about this with multiple like friends of mine from India. And just मैं tech की बात करूँगी, now that I work in tech, I don't see a lot of like pure account manager sales folks who are South Asians.
Yeah.
Part of it maybe has to do with like linguistic capabilities, I don't know, but I would really like to disagree that we don't speak good English. I don't think that's an issue.
Even you're talking about tech, but, even if I do a scan across banking, you'll find the more senior South Asian people in very technical esoteric products.
Exactly, like structured debt and
ठीक है, मतलब इस तरह की चीजें जहाँ पे the product is very important और client को product के बारे में बहुत कम पता है.
हाँ.
Because वो इतना esoteric product है.
Basically, you're good at the structuring bit or the execution bit.
IQ.
Yeah.
Right, you're the IQ
High
boy.
IQ
you're
guy,
the smart boy with the nice glasses on. You're gonna come in. You're gonna do the numbers. But you're not necessarily the guy who's going to sell the dream or the idea.
But I'm sure there would be exceptions to
100%.
Even within like Amazon, I can point out to South Asian
exceptions to har jagah hai, but if I took a proportion, which we have in my company, it's very low.
Yeah. So essentially, sales is an area which where we all need to.
And it's a corollary, right? In the sense that if the selling roles are what get you to the high flying positions in any sector, then if you preclude us from doing sales roles, what does that mean? Can we not become those like head of UK, head of EMEA business groups? I'm not okay with that.
You know what? Like
we will get that change, but
you know what's very interesting? Your conversation हमने अभी सारी की है ना. The thing that really stood out for me is that if there's one skill you need to know, communication and handling people.
Yeah.
Right? If you can nail that down, right? So it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a very high IQ or ye wo,
Yeah.
at least for the roles that really make money, right? Because at the end of the day, like business or any type of enterprise is people interacting with each other and exchanging value.
Yeah.
So if you can learn people management, communication, and sales, which some people are natural at, but there's no reason to think that, people can't improve. People can learn that.
100%.
Yeah.
Then you're golden.
So certain technical skill sets can be acquired, even if, let's say, you're naturally very good with communication, people, sales, glorifying things, etc. But still, those are the skill sets that need to be nurtured.
Yeah.
100%.
They are acquired skills, and these are skills even if you may have, it still needs nurturing.
Yeah.
And the best sellers, they spend time researching before their pitches, before their calls. ऐसे नहीं मोड़ उठा के चले गए हैं कि
The best sellers or also banking is a selling job, right?
Yeah,
You convince clients into hiring you and convince clients into following a particular idea. And the best sellers or sales MDs that I've seen doing this are not वो कोई ऐसे suave like snake oil salesman नहीं होते कि जाके मतलब कोई बहुत कोई
right.
What's the word one of my seniors uses फंटूश कोई इस फंटूश बातें नहीं करते जाके but they are actually deeply involved in the product they're selling. They have that technical knowledge, they have that research.
And they know what the other party wants.
That's it.